Hello students, I hope you all doing well and good. So for today we're going to talk about adjective clause, or we can say relative clause, which is the second type of dependent clause. So let's find out what it is. So first of all, we have two types of adjective clauses. The first one we call it defining or identifying adjective clause. And the second type of adjective clause is modifying adjective clause. So the difference between these two types of adjective clauses are, while we are dealing with defining adjective clause, we use no comma. No comma is used in the sentence. But while we are dealing with modifying adjective clause, we are dealing with a comma. A comma is in the sentence, and that's a really easy way to distinguish between these two types. So whenever in a sentence you see a comma, be sure that you are dealing with an adjective clause, and to be more specific, that you are dealing with a modifying adjective clause. Okay, so notice this. An adjective clause can also be an optional clause. So we will find out. Just keep this in mind for now. Usually begins with a adjective pronoun. An adjective clause usually begins with a adjective pronoun. And what are the pronouns? What are the adjective pronouns? We have who, whom, where, which, that, and whose. So notice which and that. They're in two different colors. So let's talk about which. Which is only used for things, while that is used for both things and people. So that's the difference between these two. Keep it in mind. So let's look at some examples. The man lives next door. So this sentence is grammatically correct. The man lives next door. Complete sentence, right? And it is also an independent sentence. It does not require any other information or sentences. But the problem is, we don't know who the man is, right? The man lives next door. We don't know who this man is. So therefore, we can say the man who lives next door is a doctor. So there you go. We now know who's the man. Who's the man? The man is a doctor. And in this case, who lives next door, we can remove it, right? Listen. Well, we can't remove it basically because this is important. It is very important here. Here we are dealing with that I just said. I'm going to explain it for you. So here, the man who lives next door is a doctor. This is important because it tells us who the man is. So we identified who the man is. And keep in mind, here we said defining adjective clause, we use no comma, right? So here we don't have any comma if you noticed, right? So this is the first type of adjective clause, which is defining or identifying adjective clause, because we have no comma in the sentence, right? Good. So let's go to the second example. Dr. Smith, who lives next door, is a retired surgeon. So notice the comma here, right? So now we are dealing with the second type of adjective clause, which is modifying adjective clause. So what is modifying adjective clause? Let us be clear. Modifying adjective clause only gives extra information. Okay? So here, can you tell me, can you locate the adjective clause? Good. Here it is. Who lives next door is the adjective clause. know that we can also say Dr. Smith is a retired surgeon, right? We don't need this now because we have the comma, right? And whenever we have that comma, notice that the adjective clause is optional. We can remove it in the sentence, okay? Not with the identifying adjective clause, okay? So, Dr. Smith, who lives next door, is a retired surgeon, right? So, we have the comma, so that means we can remove who lives next door. If we even remove it, it gives complete meaning by saying Dr. Smith is a retired surgeon. And notice one more difference between these two sentences, this and that, okay? So here we said the man, and here we said Dr. Smith, right? So here, why we needed this adjective clause, it was because we didn't know who the man is, right? So we needed this. But here, we know who's the man. We know Dr. Smith, right? We have the proper noun, right? So therefore, we can remove who lives next door. That was the only difference. Let's look at some more examples. Frank went to study in Boston. Boston is a state of America, is a state of US. So, Frank went to study in Boston. Notice the second sentence, which is all in red, where some of the world's best universities are based. So, look at this. Frank went to study in Boston. This is a complete sentence, right? So, where is the adjective clause? Here it begins. Where some of the world's best universities are based, right? So, here, notice that we have a comma, right? So that means the adjective clause is optional. We can remove it. We can remove it easily. Frank went to study in Boston. It gives complete meaning, right? So, where some of the world's best universities are based is a modifying adjective clause. It only says something else about Boston, right? Boston is a place, and where is used for places, right? Where some of the world's best universities are based. So therefore, we are dealing with a modifying adjective clause. The second type of, right? The second type of adjective clause, right? Because we have the comma, right? Good. Look at the other example. I visited the town where they met. It's quite easy. I visited the town, right? We have the subject and the verb, and then we have the adjective clause where they met, right? So again, here, this is not a modifying adjective clause. This is in fact a defining or identifying adjective clause. And why is that? Can you only say I visited the town? So what else? You visited the town. What comes next? Was it fun? What did you do in the town, right? We don't know. So here, where they met identifies the town, right? It says something about the town, right? Because we don't know what was the town, what did they do, right? So where they met, this whole clause identifies the town where I went. Look at the third example. The game, notice we have the comma. The game, which was played yesterday, ended in a tie. So, we have the comma, right? Can we say the game ended in a tie? Is it correct? It is indeed correct, because this is optional. And which type of adjective clause is that? Notice we have the comma. Correct, very good. It is the second type of adjective clause, which is modifying adjective clause. So notice, which was played yesterday is only modifying the game. Okay? The game which was played yesterday, the game was yesterday. So this is only extra information. This is nothing more than the extra information. Okay? The other one. The library that we visited was quite beautiful. Here, the library that we visited was quite beautiful. Notice this. We have that. We have that clause. So what did we say for that? We said that is used for both things and people. So library is for things. It is a thing, right? It's not people. It's a place. So notice the library we visited was quite beautiful. We can also remove this that. We can say the library we visited was quite beautiful. It gives complete meaning. Nothing is wrong with it. Look at the other example. The class which I study in is really fun. Where is the adjective clause? Of course it is this, right? Which I study in. So, we also said that which is only used for things, right? So class is a thing, right? It's a place. The class which I study in is really fun. But notice the difference between which and that. That, we said, things and people, which is only used for things. You will never find a sentence where you have which used for people. You don't have that. So, your homework, and I would be expecting you to send it back to me today or tomorrow. So, you have this homework. You will only do one thing for me. You will only underline or take out the adjective clauses. Okay? So be careful and do it. Good. So we're finished for today, and I hope you stay well.